"You're not coming on the cruise, Rachel. It's just family." That was my dad's voice on speakerphone, flat, dismissive. The irony? I had just finished paying off their $400,000 house. Papers signed, deed transferred, bow tied. I'm Rachel, 29, and I grew up thinking family was the anchor you could always hold on to. But anchors can also drag you under. I looked around their living room, my name still faintly etched on the delivery receipts stacked by the doorway. Every tile, every window, every light switch, they all had my fingerprints on them. Yet suddenly I was the stranger. The uninvited. Not family. The words echoed in my head like a cracked record. My mom stayed quiet in the background the way she always did, letting his sentences define her silence. My eyes drifted to the house key still resting in my palm. I had bought 3 copies. One for them, one for emergencies, and one for me. Now it felt heavier, sharper, like a blade disguised as brass. I wanted to scream, to demand an explanation. Instead I whispered, "Enjoy your trip," and hung up. The house fell back into silence, but not before a realization landed with the force of a wave. They had taken my gift and cut me out of the picture. Have you ever had family cross your boundaries so hard it felt like they erased you? Let me know in the comments. That key in my hand, it didn't feel like theirs anymore. It felt like possibility. You said. The day they left for the cruise, I drove them to the port myself. Mom waved half-heartedly, clutching her oversized sun hat like it was a crown. Dad didn't even look back. He was already handing their luggage to a porter, barking orders as if the world owed him obedience. I stayed in the car, fingers curled tight around the steering wheel. I kept hearing his voice. "It's just family." The sting was sharper in daylight, but I swallowed it down, plastered on a smile when Mom peeked back through the window. "Don't forget to water the plants," she murmured, as if that was the only thread connecting me to their lives. As the cruise horn blasted, I caught sight of their balcony cabin, the 2 of them leaning against the rail. Dad raised a glass, smug and oblivious. My chest tightened, not with longing but with clarity. By the time I pulled into the driveway of their house, the silence felt different. The key lay in the cup holder, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. Not a reminder anymore. A decision. I walked through each room slowly. Kitchen polished. Living room staged like a magazine spread. Bedrooms dressed with throw pillows they hadn't even removed from their packaging. Every step whispered the same truth. This isn't their house. It's mine. That night I called a realtor I trusted. When she asked, "Are you sure about selling?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I said. "List it tomorrow." The key clicked against the counter like a gavel sealing judgment. The realtor moved fast. Photos were taken the next morning. Sunlight pouring through spotless windows, countertops gleaming like untouched marble, the kind of pictures that made strangers believe a house could change their lives. By evening the listing went live. I sat at my laptop refreshing the page over and over. Each click felt like oxygen. The house no longer looked like a prison of obligations, it looked like freedom. An offer came within 24 hours. Full asking price. Cash buyer. The kind of deal you don't wait on. When the realtor called, her voice was bright. "Rachel, this is rare. Do you want to move forward?" I stared at the framed family photo on the mantel. My parents and me on a beach vacation years ago, my dad's arm draped around my shoulder like he owned me, not like he loved me. My smile in the photo was wide, but I remembered the truth. I had been crying behind those sunglasses. "Yes," I said softly. "Accept it." As I signed the digital documents, the house key lay beside me. Its weight had shifted again. No longer a blade. No longer a decision. Now it was a ticket, out of their control, out of their narrative. Still I felt a tremor of doubt. Selling it while they were gone meant no turning back. It wasn't just stone and wood, it was the illusion of family ties. I clicked confirm. The contract sealed, and for the first time in years I felt untethered. Closing day arrived faster than I expected. The buyer wired the funds. Clean, immediate, undeniable. My account balance glowed like a sunrise on my screen. $397,000 after fees. I stared at the numbers, a mixture of shock and quiet satisfaction washing over me. The house wasn't mine anymore. More importantly, it wasn't theirs. I drove by one last time. The sold sign leaned proudly in the front yard, red against the trimmed grass. The curtains inside were drawn, but the air carried a weightless finality. As I stood there, the neighbors waved. "Your parents still away?" one of them asked. Their tone was casual but the words sliced. "Yeah," I said. "They'll be surprised." That night, I sat in my apartment surrounded by silence that didn't ache anymore. I opened a notebook and wrote the words, "Not family. Just business." My handwriting shook but my resolve didn't. The house key was still in my pocket, its grooves pressing into my skin. Once it had symbolized belonging. Then betrayal. Now it was a relic. A reminder of what I had finally walked away from. I placed it in a drawer, closed it gently and whispered to myself, "They wanted me erased. Let's see how it feels when they're the ones locked out." For the first time in years I fell asleep without waiting for their approval. The cruise would end soon. The storm would start the second they returned. And for once I wasn't afraid of the thunder. The day they came back, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Missed calls. Voicemails. Then a text from Dad. "Why are strangers in our house?" I didn't reply. An hour later, another message, this one laced with fury. "Unlock the door. Now." But there was no door to unlock, not for them. I had handed over the keys days earlier. By evening, the calls turned frantic. Mom finally left a voicemail, her voice trembling. "Rachel, the locks don't work. Our things, our furniture, where is everything?" I pressed play again and again, listening to her fear curdle into realization. She still hadn't said the word sold. When Dad finally left his message, it was pure venom. "How dare you? After all we've done for you. This is theft, Rachel. You'll regret this." I sat in my kitchen sipping tea, the house key turning slowly between my fingers. They had erased me with one sentence. I had erased their comfort with one signature. The next day, I received an email from the realtor confirming transfer of ownership. Closing documents attached. Legally it was airtight. Their cruise had lasted 10 days. In less than half that, I had dismantled the fantasy they built on my back. I should have felt guilt. But all I felt was a strange, poetic calm. They had written me out of their story. I had simply redrafted the ending. By the third day home, they showed up at my apartment. The pounding on my door rattled the frame, each thud echoing through my chest. "Rachel, open up right now." Dad's voice thundered, more demand than plea. I didn't move. Through the peephole, I saw his face flushed red, Mom wringing her hands beside him. For a moment I almost pitied her, trapped between loyalty and fear. "You still wear that perfume?" Mom blurted suddenly, her words muffled through the wood. A random fragment of memory. Me at 16, dabbing her Chanel on my wrist before prom, desperate to feel grown. It hit like a sucker punch, but I stayed quiet. Dad's voice returned, sharper. "This isn't over. We'll get lawyers. We'll take back what's ours." But legally nothing was theirs anymore. The papers were signed, the deed transferred, the money sitting in my account like silent proof. I slid the house key from the drawer and held it in my palm. Funny how such a small object could decide the fate of an empire. Or dismantle one. Finally their knocking slowed. Their footsteps retreated. Silence settled again. That night an email arrived. Subject line: cease and desist. Their lawyer's name glared at me in bold. My pulse quickened but then steadied. I had prepared for this. I forwarded the documents to my own attorney, along with the closing statement. Her reply came quickly: "Rachel, you're covered. They have no claim." For the first time I let myself exhale. A week later, mediation was scheduled. We sat at a long oak table. Me on one side, my parents on the other, lawyers like chess pieces between us. Dad leaned forward, eyes burning. "She tricked us. She used our absence to steal our home." My attorney calmly slid the closing papers across the table. "Mr. and Mrs. Clark, the property was purchased under Rachel's name, her funds, her signature. She exercised her full legal rights." Mom's hands trembled as she clutched a tissue. For the first time she looked directly at me. "Rachel, how could you do this to us? We're your parents." I wanted to laugh at the irony, but my voice came out steady. "Parents don't tell their daughter she isn't family. Not after she's given them everything she has." The mediator cleared his throat, urging neutrality, but the silence that followed was heavy with truth. Dad slammed his palm on the table. "We built you. You owe us." I met his gaze, unflinching. "I don't owe you a cruise. I don't owe you a house. I don't owe you my life. The house key rested in my pocket during the entire exchange, its weight grounding me. Not as a weapon anymore but as a reminder. I had already chosen myself. When the session ended, their lawyer whispered something hurriedly. I saw Dad's jaw clench, Mom's shoulders sag. Walking out, I realized they hadn't just lost the house. They had lost the one person who ever kept them afloat. Weeks passed and the storm quieted. Their lawyer stopped calling. The threats dried up. What lingered instead was a silence neither of them knew how to fill. I received one last letter in the mail, handwritten, shaky. It was from Mom. Rachel, we didn't mean to hurt you. Your father says things he doesn't think through. The house is gone, but maybe we can still be family. I miss you. Her words bled guilt but also habit. The same cycle where Dad's cruelty was excused, where I was expected to bend until I broke. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in the same drawer where the house key once lived. Both were relics now. Instead of replying, I booked a therapy session. I started journaling again. I began sketching plans for my own condo. My space, one no one could take or taint. Family, I realized, isn't defined by blood or by guilt-laden apologies. It's defined by choice, by boundaries honored, by love that doesn't keep score. The revenge wasn't the sale of the house. It was the quiet that followed, the clarity that I no longer needed their approval to breathe. In time, maybe they would understand what they lost. Maybe not. Either way, I had already chosen peace. So if you've ever been told you weren't family by the very people who raised you, just know this. You get to write your own definition.